Sir, actually, this is a brief of statistics. What we are discussing now is a clinical perspective. So we will come step by step. What we see the probability and odds, what we need to know when we start statistics. So we have odds is equal to chance. When we toss a coin, 50% it may toss a coin means heads and tails it occurs. So it can be a so it will be 50-50 chance. So in a population of 1,000, 200 has a certain disease. So when we randomly take 1% out, the probability that this person disease is 200 by 1,000. So this is the probability. So the chance that is the odds. How can we calculate it? The probability of the disease by probability of not having the disease. That is 1 minus p. Then we can the odds are 1 to 4. Normally the probability is 0 to 1, and the odds calculating from the probability is 1 to 4. Then we can say that odds there is. Sir, hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Carry on.
Sir. Sir, the chances of odds is equal to chance. So we need to know the probability and odds to calculate to the population to for the statistics. Then we come to know the odds ratio, where is the measure of association between the exposure and outcome. So it's nothing but the odds that odds ratio represents the odds that an outcome will occur given a particular exposure to compare to the odds to the outcome occurring in the absence of that exposure. So odds ratio are commonly used in case control studies, but it can be used, however, it can be used in cross-sectional cohort studies designs as well with some modification and assumption. So basic structure of the case control design is it will come from we go backwards. According to chart, you can see is that disease cases and disease controls. So we go trace back and we see the exposed to the factor or not, unexposed to the factor, and the odds chance of exposure is calculated between the both groups. So the calculation shows that AD by BC, case control study exposed to unexposed, exposed disease A, exposed disease none is exposed plus non-disease is the B. So odds ratio is nothing but prevalence among the deceased by prevalence among the non-deceased. And if it is equals to 1, it does not affect the odds of outcome. If it is more than 1, higher the odds of outcome. If it is less than 1, its exposure associated with the lower odds of the outcome. So one example is smoking and lung cancer. If we take a smoking, if we go back and trace it, we can see the odds ratio in lung cancer of patients who are smoking as 80, with non-lung cancer without smoking is 30, and it's non-smoker who present with lung cancer at 20, with no lung cancer 70%. So total is 90. So the odds ratio presence is 9.3, which is significant when smoking with lung cancer.
Can you go back to the previous slide, Dheeraj? Now, can you give an example of the same sittings in the recent COVID pandemic?
Sir, RT-PCR and COVID antibodies, which is a
no. That is not that. That is that will come. That example will come later. That example will come later. No, here keep this slide. Now tell me another example of with regard to COVID vaccine.
So COVID vaccine.
So when they do the COVID vaccine trials, right?
Yes, sir.
So when they do the trials, this particular table you want to create. So what can be an example of this? Can you put like when they do the study of COVID vaccine?
Sir.
When they do level 1, level 2 that studies, what are they looking for?
Sir,
when they trial the vaccine, what are they looking for?
Sir, looking for the symptoms.
No. Don't say symptoms. So when many of the doctors are not taking the vaccine because of what?
Adverse effects on this.
Exactly. So we are looking for
So adverse effects.
adverse effect. So adverse
and
effect or no adverse effect.
effects.
Okay. So where will that come? Where will you put that adverse effect or no adverse effect?
Sir, in the lung cancer adverse effect, no adverse
Exactly.
effect.
So your outcome comes in the top.
Yes, sir.
Here the exposure is either the vaccine or the distilled water,
Yes, sir.
right? So those are two different agents. Okay. Now I'll give you another example. Okay. Now you are looking at like for example, that Vinu did one study on hepaticojejunostomy.
Yes, sir.
She is looking for gastric reflux. Okay. So where will the gastric reflux come? Presence or absence of gastric reflux?
Yes, sir. In this in the lung cancer area, I mean,
Yeah. So that is the outcome.
outcome of.
So here, instead of smoking and non-smoking, you will get hepaticojejunostomy versus hepaticoduodenostomy.
Yes, sir.
So you will say that your odds of developing a gastric reflux is 1.2 with hepaticojejunostomy. That means compared to hepaticoduodenostomy, you have higher odds of it developing.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Sir, we need to know the cohort study. It is a prospective study. In this, the related risk is calculated for exposure in the disease patients, exposure to factor and without exposure to the factor. And we follow up in the future time and we calculate the related risk in this patient. So in the related risk, we less than 1, more than 1. So this is the related risk calculation in the smokers and the disease outcome with lung cancer. So total out of 600 patients, out of 1800 patients, we have seen that 600 patients are smokers, 200 patients are non-smokers, and the risk for smokers is 0.03, risk for non-smokers is 0.005, and related risk compared to the both compared to this is 6. It is more than 1, which is a high risk for the smokers causing the lung cancer. So in brief, I can say that incidence of disease among this is a simple exposure combining two exposure and disease and smoking and MI. In these patients, related risk is 1.2 and the odds ratio is 2. So the exposure and disease outcome is, I can say that it's highly
Hello.
sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
Sir, it's smoking and this one, sir. Related risk or odds ratio. It says that if it's more than 1, we can say that it is associated with the outcome with the smoking causing the lung cancer.
Okay. So basically, relative risk is used when you start with the exposure.
Yes, sir.
So all the smokers, all the non-smokers, like that. You start there, you use relative risk. Whereas if you start with the disease and then you go back and look for the exposure, then you use the odds ratio. Okay.
Odds ratio. Yes.
Go back. Next slide. Sorry. Go forward. Yeah.
Yes. So summary, we can say that it's case control and cohort study. You can say that it's the case control study, the retrospective study going backwards, and prospective is the forward study, and compared between disease groups versus non-disease groups, and its cohort study is compared between exposed and non-exposed groups. And we're looking for the exposure or risk factors, and in cohort study we're looking for asking did exposure change the likelihood of the disease, and in case control study looking for established association going backwards and looking for established association forward times. So odds ratio is case control study and related risk is used in cohort study.
So both are very similar one only. I mean they often correlate with each other. Okay. It is not that one will not correlate with the other. So they always correlate with each other. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Next.
So what is the population and how to calculate a sample size, sir? So normally when we see in a scientific research, we need to make a statement. So how much is the population? Studying the whole population is impossible in terms of money, time, labor. It's not possible. So random sampling from the population and infer from the sample data needs the conclusions. Though the task of the statistics to quantify the uncertainty means the sample is really representing the population taken into the consideration. So sample size calculation. So to decide on a sample size of a trial, the following factors are to be considered. There are so many sample size calculations. So sample size calculation, it depends on the effective size. Effective size is nothing but if the weight if we take uh, if we calculating between 45 and 100 kg patients, the sample calculation, it's a long gap is there. But if it is 80 to 100 kgs, if we take in calculation sample calculation, the effective size is decreased, and we have the good sample calculation means less sample calculation we can take. And if it is between 45 to 100 kgs of child, means if a population we take, we need a large number of population, and the standard deviation will be more. And significant events is nothing but it's if it is less than 0.05, we can say we reject the null hypothesis, and if it is more than 0.5, it's not significant. And the power of a trial, if in a trial the number of people is the sample is small, a significant trial may look non-significant. So this is called a beta error. So if a trial with a larger sample is likely to correct such error, and we need the power of the sample. So power of a trial is nothing but 1 minus beta. So the usual power of a trial is kept at 80%, and the power is so sample size directly with the significant levels, and power and inversely related to the effective size. So sample size calculation is nothing but significance plus power bracket 1 minus beta by effective size. So, sir, next question is this one. Sensitivity is specific.
So what is the difference between alpha error and beta error? I asked you to include that slide somewhere.
Yes, sir. Sir, alpha error is nothing but the type 1 error, where it's a false positive.
Yeah.
Sir, alpha error is a type 1 error, is known as a false positive error, and occurs when a researcher incorrectly rejects a null hypothesis, sir.
Okay.
That means you report that your findings are significant, where in fact they have occurred by chance.
Yeah.
The type 2 error is also known as a false negative, and occurs when a researcher fails to reject a null hypothesis, which is really false.
Now they fail to reject the null hypothesis because of the sample size is low.
Yeah, so low. Yes.
Okay, so the beta error is mainly because of the sample size.
Yes, sir.
So if you study less patients, like for example, like that in Vinu's paper, she may say that there is no difference in the gastric reflux between hepatic jejunostomy and duodenostomy. That is purely because her sample size is small and there is a beta error.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so how do you avoid that kind of error? Or type 2 error?
Yes, sir. We're calculating the power of trial, sir. That is 1 minus beta.
Yeah, but if this is a rare condition. So how do you overcome that?
Sir, increasing the sample size, sir.
How do you do that? You can either do it for a longer duration of study.
Yes.
If it is a rare condition, you can either do a longer duration of study,
Yes, sir.
or you can include a multi-institutional trial. If it is a rare condition, like biliary atresia,
Yes.
you can do a multi-institutional trial.
Yes, sir.
Okay, or choledocholicist. Okay, go back to the slide you were the mother slide. Yeah. The next one.
Yes. Sir, in this sensitivity is
Hello.
sir.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir. Sir, sensitivity, specificity, and false predictive value, negative predictive value. It is useful in the screening of a test, and sir.
Tell.
Sir, sir, sensitivity means how often it correctly generates a positive result for people who have the condition. And this means sensitivity, it shows that true positive cases, and specificity is true negative cases, and positive predictive value is the patient has like actually has a disease, and negative predictive value is a false negative where the chance of having a test is negative and the patient does not have the gastric cancer, sir. That means not have any negative. If we take any example for gastric cancer, out of 100 patients admitted with hematemesis, the actual presence or absence of a gastric cancer was diagnosed from endoscopy. The results were shown. So the sensitivity shows that it is pointed. That is 80% of the chance have picking up the chest in this study. The specificity is 60% of chance test being negative will have a positive result. So if you go to positive predictive value, there is 40% chance if the test is positive and the patient is actually has gastric cancer. Where is more chance we can say that positive predictive value, we can say the patient has gastric cancer. And in negative predictive value, we can say that 90% there is a 90% chance, and if the test is negative, that the patient does not have the gastric cancer. Means that almost 10% there is a false negative cases, that is the patient doesn't have the gastric cancer.
So in a COVID setting, when is this used?
Sir, is RT-PCR. We can use
Yeah.
this sensitivity and specificity for the RT-PCR and COVID antigen test. COVID antigen.
No, antibody test.
COVID antibodies, sir.
So where do you put RT-PCR and then where do you put this in this table?
The sensitivity is, we can put it as...
No. See, I ask specific questions. In the table, you want to enter the numbers.
Yes, sir.
Where do you put RT-PCR positive, negative, and then where do you put the antibody positive, negative?
Sir, sensitive, sir.
No, man. When you enter the data, which column and which row?
Sir, the column, sir. In column, first column we can put present or absent. First column is present.
What present?
RT-PCR, sir, positive, negative. So RT-PCR.
Okay. Then where do you put antibodies?
Rows, sir. Rows, sir. In the rows.
So in the rows, blood result, positive, blood result, negative.
Yes,
Instead of that,
yes,
you put them. So your gold standard comes on the top here. Like your outcome, in that previous table, the outcome came on the top. Here, the gold standard comes on the top.
Yes,
right? So, for example, here your gold standard is RT-PCR.
Yes, sir.
Even in this table, they say gastric cancer present or absent. That means they have taken a biopsy from an endoscopy, right?
Yes, sir.
That is a gold standard. So your gold standard comes on the top, and whatever test you are using, like for example, either an antibody test or a blood result, blood like blood levels or something, that comes on the left side in the blood result positive negative, that row. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And where is your A, B, and C and D? Which is A, which is B, which is C, which is D in this? In among 20, 35, and 45.
Sir.
Tell me.
Sir, 30 is B, sir. A is 20, 30 is B, 5 is C, 45 is D, sir.
That is very important to remember, because whenever you say that A plus B by B plus C by C plus D, then you need to know where is A, where is B, where is C, where is D. You cannot get it wrong.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it goes like that, horizontally first and then horizontally next. It doesn't go vertically first and vertically next. Okay. So your sensitivity is actually A by what is it?
A plus C, sir.
A plus
by
C.
A plus.
You will get it. So
Yes,
this is different. Whereas your positive predictive value is A by A plus B.
A plus, yes, sir.
Okay, so that kind of entering your data, it is very important to remember how you do it. Only when you come to do it, you will know that you have entered it wrong or you have entered it you know, you worked it out wrong. Until you enter your data and start working out, you won't even know. Okay, that is why it is important, right?
Yes, sir.
So in these four tests are basically you are comparing your new test with your gold standard.
Gold standard.
Okay, next. Next.
Yes, sir. Coming to this hypothesis test, what we calculate in means data calculation. Commonly, this is the t-test, and more commonly we use the chi-square test, chi-square. T-test is nothing but the student t-test is method of testing hypothesis of sample drawn from a normal distributed population, and where the standard deviation is unknown. Uh, So t-test contains one sample t-test, two sample t-test, and paid t-test. So sample t-test is compared to the single mean of a fixed number or gold standard. So in two sample t-test, we compare the two population means based on independent samples from two populations or the groups. In paid t-test, we compare the two means based on samples that are paid on some way.
Can you give me, I mean, the common t-tests are the bottom two. We rarely do a one sample t-test. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, can you give me an example of a two sample t-test and a paired t-test?
Sir, we can see it means before then after the outcome we can see. So here at
Go up. Show that slide.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So give me an example of a paired t-test.
Yes, sir.
Mean creatinine before and after PUV fulguration.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes, sir.
mean creatinine before and after the PUV fulguration is on the same patient.
Comparing, yes, sir.
Same patient, okay, before and after an intervention. So your sample size or n will be the same in a paired t-test. In a paired test, if you have 20 patients in PUV, then after the procedure there will be another 20 patients with the same. Okay. Whereas two sample t-test means you have two different groups.
Good. Yes, sir.
See, for example, hepaticojejunostomy and hepaticoduodenostomy, two different groups.
Yes, sir.
Or a creatinine level in a PUV versus creatinine level in a PUJ. So one sample may be, you know, like 20 patients and another maybe 5 patients. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But what you are comparing is a numerical value. It is not a percentage or proportion. It is a mean of a testing. That is what you are comparing.
Yes, sir. Numerical
test. Okay, next.
Normally we compare the numerical data, sir.
Yeah. Next.
An example I can say is 200 adults seeing an asthma nurse specialist were randomly assigned to either a new type of bronchodilator or placebo. So after 3 months, the peak flow rates in the treatment group has increased by means of 96 ml per minute with standard deviation of 58, and in the placebo group by 70 liters per minute, standard deviation of 52. So when we come to the null hypothesis, that it says that there is no difference between the bronchodilator and the placebo, but the statistics says that it is t statistics is, means 11.14 and resulting in a p-value of 0.001, which is a very good value. So I can say that it is therefore very unlikely that the null hypothesis is correct. So we reject the hypothesis and conclude that the new bronchodilator is significantly better than the placebo. We conclude that test. So one more test we can see chi-square test. So it is commonly seen in categorical patients where we can use to evaluate whether there is an association between the rows and columns in a contingency table. It's very difficult to directly calculate. It's available in online also to calculate chi-square. And we see the difference between the study groups in the proportions of the risk factor of interest. So it's normally developed by the Carl Pearson. So it's a non-parametric test used for two specific purposes: to test the hypothesis of no association between two or more groups, population or criteria, that is to check the independence between the two variables, and to test how likely the observed distribution of the data fits with distribution that is expected. So it is used to analyze the categorical data like male or female patients, smokers and non-smokers, etc. So hypothetical data containing observed values for calculating chi-square test. We can see here Sir, I'll show you this next slide, which is very good one. So, examples for chi-squares and two proportions, we can see that gender male and female were comparing, and non-smokers and smokers. So, we can see that question: is there a difference in the proportion of males and females that smoke? So, we can say that according to online hypothesis, there is no relationship, and it says that there is no relation between the gender and smoking. And if it is alternate hypothesis, it says that there is a relation between gender and the smoking. But we need to compare these two, and we can say that. Sir, I'm little bit confused.
No, you're right. See, in a chi-square test, you are comparing a proportion between, for example, the number of smokers in male is something like 10%. In the number of smoker in female is like some 9%, means you want to know that there is a difference or not. Okay. Now, the reason why here we have chosen chi-square here is because that particular gender is not going to influence the risk. They are totally different things. So I mean, you don't feel like gender is influencing a smoking pattern. Otherwise, you would have used a relative odds ratio of odds of that fellow having a smoking is more because of the gender, like that you would have put an odds ratio.
Yes.
But here you are looking at just a percentage of events. So this is again, this is totally two different independent percentages. Two different independent percentages. We often use it very commonly in our medical practice chi-square test. We do it because it is very easy to compare the numbers. But many often the statisticians say that you should have used a relative risk or odds ratio, because most of the medical interventions are basically influencing. For example, when you compare a placebo and a vaccine,
Yes.
or when you give a testosterone and a no testosterone, or when you do hepaticoduodenostomy or hepaticogestomy, that particular thing is going to influence the outcome. So the statistician often says that you should have used the odds ratio, or instead of a chi-square. But we often end up doing a chi-square. We often do the chi-square because it is pretty easy to compare proportions, because we know the proportion. The incidence of adhesive obstruction in hepaticoduodenostomy is this much. The incidence of obstruction in hepaticogestomy is this much, like that. Okay. So we are comparing the outcomes in the form of a percentage. The incidence of fistula developing in hypospadias after testosterone is this much. With the testosterone is this much. So we are comparing the incidence of that occurring in that event. But in an ideal world, we should have used a odds ratio, because that is what we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
We end up doing chi-square. Most of the papers do this problem, but chi-square is an easy one to do, and then that is why they are doing it. Okay, basically you are considering the proportion, a 5% versus 10%. So you want to know whether that particular number is significantly more or less.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So so that is what it is. Next, go to next.
Sir, it is clearly understood that Cherenkov test only tells us the probability of independence of a distribution of data, or in simple terms, it will only test the whether two variables are associated with each other or not. But it will not tell us that how closely they are associated. Means lung can males and females, but it doesn't tell us that lung can actually it causes or not, as you said, sir.
Yeah, next.
Sir, thank you, sir.
So that's about it. We are finishing on time, 8:40. So if there are any questions, ask now. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session.